Welcome back to the Pocket Network Podcast, a podcast for real estate professionals like you to innovate your world. I'm your host, Margarita Petrosian, and each week I sit down with different professionals to discuss industry hot topics and so much more. This week we have Tara Krach with us. Welcome to the podcast, Tara.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Me too. I actually met you through your Facebook group, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So you have, I believe now it's over 50,000 members.
Yes, we have 55,000 members inside of our community. So we're growing rapidly.
Awesome. So when you first started this, what was the purpose of starting your Facebook group?
So I actually noticed a huge gap between the real estate industry and women. And I really wanted to be able to connect women together and just give them a safe space to talk about things within their business, whether it be issues they're having getting started or lead generation or growing. So it's kind of just become that space where they can come and get support for their business.
Yeah. And just looking at the posts, people truly talk about everything. So it's not just help me with this deal, but I've seen actually posts getting as scary as talking about safety and how some people will be contacting them for other reasons and how to deal with it. And then when you look through the comments, people are very, very insightful. They're able to guide you to make sure to speak to this person in the right way to make sure that you're safe and just letting other people know what you're going through. Also, I feel like that's a big reason why there's a lot of women in your group.
Yes, absolutely. So, and September is actually Realtor Safety Month. So no better time to be talking about this, but that is actually something that I noticed, in some other groups. They weren't as supportive and it was kind of difficult for them to talk about. They felt a little overwhelmed getting opinions that maybe weren't so great, specifically from male agents who just have different needs rather than women. So, and it's not saying one is better than the other. It's just saying that things are just different for us. And so to have that space where they can talk about truly anything, whether it be starting a family, whether it be safety, how to navigate doing both, being a wife, mom, and all the things. It's a lot that we deal with as real estate agents, for sure.
Yeah, just if you Google the words real estate agent, women in real estate, any of those words with agent and women, I know some of the top searches do talk about safety. So it's a real issue. And I think it would be great. It is great to have a group like that where you could talk about specific scenarios because Googling it can only tell you so much. And you can't really with a lot of these things, and you don't want to go to your local police station with every little thing. So to have this community to turn to not only get advice, but for people to be aware and you kind of recording what's been happening with specific people, that could also be very useful in the future. So I do see how a woman's input on that would be very different than a male's, because if you do ask a male real estate agent, he might, let's say, wear that Rolex to a showing, whereas a woman might not take her most expensive piece of jewelry for safety issues, or whether it's what time of day they schedule their listings at. I know online a lot of women are advised to only schedule listings in the daytime, but how many deals are they missing out on, especially when it gets dark at, let's say, 6 p.m. in the winter? Are they not going to book with anyone that has a 9-to-5 job because it gets too dark and it's not safe out there? So there's so many obstacles that women have to overcome, and to have that community to turn to, and just to feel like, most importantly, I think that they're heard. I think that's huge. And I think your group is, I don't think you could have ever imagined how successful it would have been. Do you have any specific members that turn to you and give you feedback?
100%. So as we grew, so full disclosure, like I am actually in referral status now because I actually help real estate agents grow their business. And so when I first started it, it was more of just a space for women to come together, talk about ideas and growing their business. And that's where I really started noticing that the topic of conversation was very different from other groups. It is so supportive, so kind, so loving. And I really take everybody's feedback to heart. And I work really, really hard to make sure that it is a community where people feel comfortable coming and talking about different issues. I know other groups, it can get a little overwhelming or the comments get a little sarcastic. I think we've all been in those groups where somebody says something and then immediately like people's comments just seem unkind or seem like, I can't believe you don't already know this. And the thing is that all brokerages are different. All people's journeys are different. Their knowledge is different coming out of it, depending on where they came from to get into real estate real estate. So you never know where somebody's actually coming from. So when somebody comes in and they're like, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z, and the comments that they get is, oh, you should already know this, or oh, I can't believe your brokerage didn't tell you this. It gets really discouraging for agents, I think. And so I've tried really, really hard to facilitate a community that understands that and allows and embraces those questions that, we could do everything from as easy as, hey, how do I get my license, to, oh my gosh, like my marriage is failing, my business is failing. How do I navigate this? Somebody please help me and tell me I'm not alone. So we get all spectrums of questions. And I think that the feedback that I've gotten from my community is that they love it. It is such a safe space for them. I know so many people come in and they are continuously like reading the comments and really getting information on how to thrive in their business. Yeah. So I love it. I spend so much time connecting and meeting other women. So it is a great, great space.
And I have to say, personally, I have seen some questions on that page where I'm not a real estate agent, but I was like, oh, I feel like the answer to that is pretty obvious. So I'll look at the comments just to see what it is. And you can never expect what someone else will be insightful about. So they might have a completely different take on it. They might have completely different experiences, or most importantly, they might teach you a lesson. They might warn you that this is the traditional route. This is probably what the brokerage that you're working for will recommend, but I don't recommend doing it that way, because here's the shortcut that I learned through experience, through life, and try it this way. Let me know what happens. And then all of a sudden, most importantly, that part, let me know what happens. These people are building a friendship. These people are building a partnership. Even if they're in a completely different state, now you have someone to refer business to, and you have this circle that really benefits your career, that really adds value to what you're doing every day and helps you build your career.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. Obviously I'm very partial and very much in love with my community that we built. And as we were growing the group, I very quickly saw the need and how important it was for this space to be there. And so that is actually why I created the RealtHer Society, which is as of right now, it is the largest community education and marketing society that is for women in real estate. So we only service women. Our whole goal is to uplift and empower one another and help each other navigate this crazy world of real estate and entrepreneurship. And so I am super passionate about it. We actually started this in the spring, believe it or not, spring of 2021, and have been able to grow it to about 80,000 members so far.
That is incredible. Congratulations. That is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of hard work. And I know you're a mom too. So it's not like you're just sitting around bored at home, not knowing what to do next with your career.
Right. It's one thing after another, right? So
that's incredible. So a question specifically for the group. So if someone isn't really looking for anything but advice to grow their career, what is the best way that they could utilize your group?
Yeah, so we actually have resources available inside of our group that they can check out in our guides section. So there are things like templates, there are guides, there are master classes, all of that fun stuff they can get to, and it's all free. So they're able to go in and check all of that out. We also highly encourage, I know this sounds like, again, a no-brainer. We highly encourage you to do a search inside of our group, because here's the thing, it's probably been asked before. And that's not saying that you can't ask. 100% feel free to ask, but people who have responded a year ago probably wouldn't respond this time. So you're going to get tons and tons of information just by doing a quick search. biggest question ever, how to get leads in your real estate business, right? That's like the biggest question that you're going to see. And we have so much information on that. So if you are a real estate agent and you're like, holy cow, how do I get leads? How do I get business? How do I market my business? Search that group, because you're going to find an insane amount of ideas and information, as well as in the guide section, we have specific resources for that as well.
That's great. And also more specifically, I think what's more important is, sure, the question, it's a great question. How do you get leads? But to get more specific about that, you could just search in the group, find the people that answered, and can start contributing to that conversation. Bump that up in that group and ask them. Let's say you had commented on a strategy on how to get more leads. If you want to know how to apply that directly to your business, instead of putting that question up again and possibly getting completely different answers, look at the value that people have already added to that question and ask about your scenario. Maybe say, I'm in the California market. Is there anyone in California? Because it is very competitive here. There are so many agents. Let's say one of the recommendations wouldn't work for me. How can I alter that for that to serve my business? And then all of a sudden, the answers that you're getting are much, much more valuable. And you can actually apply it to your business and hopefully get results.
100%. Yeah. And I think that that's such an important like point that you made, because a lot of times people ask questions inside of the group and they expect people to just give them all of the knowledge. And this goes for any group and basically at any point in your business, whether it be online or in person. Don't always expect to ask and receive. Make sure that you're also contributing as well, because that is really where, funny enough, you're going to learn the most lessons and get the most feedback, the most valuable feedback, when you are also contributing and throwing in your ideas. Of course, we have some lurkers. We have people that are too afraid or they're not interested in really participating, but they want that information. But I think that what some people get kind of stuck in is they're always the question asker. They're not necessarily the answer. And I think that a lot of insight and value comes from those conversations. Like you said, when somebody is actually, okay, what do you mean by this? Well, here's what I'm thinking. This is how my market's different. Like, so having that conversation can really open yourself up to more knowledge and also better relationships online.
Yeah. And the more you learn, the better you'll be at your job. Even if you don't ever plan on selling, let's say in Colorado or Florida, you might learn some facts about that market. And next thing you know, when you have a client considering a move, you can tell them about the market out there, and then they will trust you as a referral source. Or even better, you might change their mind and they might stay in California and buy the house from you. Right.
100%. And also, just speaking of referrals, our community is amazing at giving out referrals too. So if you have somebody that is in California, but they're moving to Colorado and you don't know an agent, it's a perfect place to pop in and say, hey, I am looking for a bomb.com agent inside of, Denver, Colorado. And you will get so many comments and people that are like, hey, check me out, or check this person out, or I recommend this person. So again, it's just a true place of collaboration and community. And I love it so much.
Yeah. And then your website, the RealtHer Society. So your website, first of all, it's beautiful. I love the website. It's so aesthetically pleasing. And I have a question about that. Are all like the visuals on your website very purposeful for your audience? Or is it just because you liked it that way and it was cute and you did it that way?
Both. So 100% I designed I came actually from a design background before I got into real estate. So aesthetics have always been super important to me, as well as branding. I've always been really big on strong branding. And when I created the RealtHer Society, I created the RealtHer Society for people like me, women in real estate who aren't super stuffy. We're kind of casual. We're not corporate at all. But yet we're still wanting that community. We're wanting to learn. We're wanting those high level strategies. My real estate journey is quite the story. And I don't want to get into too much of it here, but I actually got into my first brokerage, and my brokerage was a pretty big brokerage out there. And I found very, very quickly that in my office specifically, men were valued more than women. And I had a couple of situations where I felt talked down to. I was kind of made fun of for being a woman and having a feminine aesthetic as a woman in the industry. And it really kind of put a dent in my pride and a dent in my confidence moving forward. And I had to kind of pump myself up. And I was like, you know what? If I like this and I feel comfortable with it and I want things to be beautiful and branded and make sense to me and be a place that I want to be, other people feel that way too. So that's kind of what I was thinking of. So while I was designing for myself, I was also designing for women like me that enjoy that, can still be 7-figure earners, but still enjoy that feminine side.
Yeah, I commend you for that, because I know a lot of women, they just accept it as this is the way it'll be. And they just alter their marketing, their own branding, they change just to match the brokerage that they've chosen to work at, because let's say they like the deal there better. But the fact that you decided to make a change, and first of all, to be your true self, I think that also shows in your success today, because you have really differentiated your product from anyone else's. That's number one. And number two, I don't think anyone can survive faking it long term. So if you're true to yourself, first of all, you'll find the right group to be around. And second of all, you will be successful no matter what you do. So congratulations on that. That in itself is a huge step. And then the fact that you're empowering other women to do the same, and you're telling them it's okay to like the things you do. It's okay if you don't fit into the template that we're told to fit in. That's also huge.
Absolutely. And I think that it's super important for, and I say women, but really anybody coming into the industry to understand that just because someone says that this is how it should be doesn't mean that's how it has to be. And I know that when I came in, I was told this, and this is exactly how it's done. This is how you're going to be a top producer. This is how you're going to build a successful business. And I looked at that and I was like, all right, I mean, I guess I'll do that if that's what you want me to do. But I hated it and I was miserable. And I was like, wait a minute. I got into real estate for freedom. I got into real estate so that I could provide financially for my family. And I got into real estate because I thought it was going to be fun, and none of those things were happening. And I was like, I have to shift my mindset and decide that I'm doing this for me and I'm doing it my way. And it doesn't work for everybody. And that is totally okay. But definitely find what works for you and understand that the way that's in those books and in those trainings does not have to be the only way. Yeah. And when I started doing trainings within the RealtHer Society, I focused very, very heavily on the digital techniques as far as getting leads online. And the reason why is because the education space and teaching how to get leads online was primarily dominated by men. And it felt icky. It felt kind of scammy. It didn't feel very good. And I was like, I can shift this narrative and show that this doesn't have to be icky. This can be relationship based. It can be attraction based. It can be good and fun and easy. So that's kind of how and why I built everything the way that I built it, and why I really talk specifically to women, because I don't want them to feel like, ew, I don't want to do that. It feels icky. This feels weird. Or, okay, that's way too aggressive for me. As women, we tend to be a lot less aggressive than our male counterparts. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is what it is. So to be able to still use the same techniques, or to be able to use the same strategies, but in a much more aligned way, I think is super important for the health of your business and really the health of your lifestyle. So
yeah, especially in real estate, we always go over this on the podcast because it's so true. In real estate, you are the business. So it's not like any other business where you can kind of remove yourself or distance yourself from your business brand. So if you're at a brokerage and their brand does not align with yours, not even close, what are you doing there? You need to reevaluate it. Go on a group, a Facebook group, or even talk to your mentor, whatever it takes to talk to them about why you're even at the brokerage in the first place. That's number one. And number two, if you had the perfect world, what would you look for in a brokerage? Then find that, because you can have your perfect world. Or you know what? If you want to, if you can't find anything like that, you make your own brokerage if that's what it's going to take. If you love the industry, if you love the business, then you do that. So I think it's really, really important for people to recognize that they don't have to fit in the mold that their brokerage has created. And if your brokerage, wherever you might be, whether it's a small one or a big one, does not give you that creative space, then maybe it's time to sign a contract with someone else.
100%. And it's really funny, actually. Some of my friends just recently started a brokerage here in my market within this past year. And they turned to me and they're like, hey, so we're thinking about our branding being a little bit more like yours. And I was like, do it. Go for it. So their branding is pinks and peaches and blues and it's super feminine and girly. But at the same time, they are literally selling like multi-million-dollar homes on the beach. They're killing it out there. But the thing is that, they found a way that aligned with them. They found a marketing strategy that worked with them. They have, at this point, I think they're up to like 50 or 60 agents that are within their brokerage. So they really just took it and they ran with it. They went all in on themselves. And that is, I think, probably the biggest takeaway that I can give anybody is go, whatever that looks like for you, because it's different for everybody, but just go all in on yourself. And I think you're going to be really, really amazed at what can happen. You may end up with, a brokerage with a ton of agents. You may end up with a group with over 55,000 women. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And I do think that this is much bigger than any of us realize, because one of the reasons why a lot more women didn't feel comfortable doing this is because no one was used to it. So it wasn't accepted. So the more people like you that create these large communities and they put out these content, this very, very feminine content, and then the people out there, the audience that you're marketing to, they get used to that. I think people's perception of women will also change. So that brokerage that you're talking about, all of their consumers and all of the people that are starting to recognize their brand, they will now associate the pink and the glitter with powerful luxury homes and powerful women in business. So I think that's also huge. Business does not always have to be cold and dark and straight lines. It can be whatever you make it out to be. I have a personal story where I was actually reprimanded. I used to be a research scientist and I was doing cancer research at a local hospital here. And I remember someone that had like a higher position, not technically in my lab, but he would always comment on the things that I would wear, because I would always have my hair done and my makeup done. And then I would have cute clothes under my lab coat. I would always have like really cute shoes. And my favorite pair that was super comfortable were glitter. And one time in the elevator, he literally looked down at my shoes and said, "This is not a daycare. I don't know where you think you're going to." I don't know why my shoes, I was a grown woman, looked like daycare material. But after that, I was like, you know what? I did not take off those shoes. I would wear those shoes every single day. And that became my brand. So people would tell me, "Oh yeah, we saw you in whatever room and we recognize you because of your shoes." I was like, good, you better associate that with big things, because I'm going to do big things here. So I think we need more people doing that, whether it's at a small scale at a small hospital or a huge brokerage in taking over the entire state.
Yes, 100%. And as going back to just like a lot of the different questions that people ask, there are a lot of questions, people coming in like, how do I dress? Should I cover my tattoos? Do I need to dye my hair a certain color? Or, all these different questions. What kind of car should I drive? What kind of bag should I wear? And to me, it's like, look, here's the thing. I get it. Because I had these questions. I 100% had these questions as a new agent coming in. I was like, okay, like my hair, it doesn't look so much right now, but it is bright, fiery red. And that's my signature. It's my trademark. It's always been that way. But I was like, am I going to have to dull down my hair? And I was like, okay, wait. I went to my husband and I was like, I think maybe I'm going to need to get a different car. Should I get a new car? Should I get, this kind of thing? And I actually interviewed with the brokerage and he was like, what kind of car do you have? And at the time he was like, he actually asked me, what kind of car do I have? And I told him what kind of car I had. And it was just like, it's like a mid-level, like Honda car. Like there's nothing, and he kind of looked at me and goes,
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, I guess as long as you keep it clean, that doesn't matter so much. And I'm like, wait, is this a thing? So I went home and told my husband, I may have to get a new car. I went to the groups and I was searching and everybody's talking about like their luxury vehicles and all of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not making any money yet. And I have to tell my husband I need a Mercedes. Like he's going to do his kids, right? Like, honey, so, but at the end of the day,
it's for work. I'm not the one that wants it.
I'm not the one that wants it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like, is there anything wrong with luxury vehicles or feeling like you want to be buttoned up and polished? Absolutely not. If you feel like that is what you want, that's going to make you your best self, you do it. But know that there are multi-million-dollar agents that are still driving around in a Honda and they're just as successful. There are tattooed agents that are killing it out there with their brand. Like there's even like a tattooed bearded agent here. Like that is his whole brand. He's tattooed and bearded. So it's the tattooed bearded like agent. So like your brand can be whatever you look like. Or whatever you want it to look like, not whatever you look like, but whatever you want it to look like. And I think that's so, so important because like you said, like your high heeled story, I've had people look at me and say, are you really going to wear that? And I'm like, yeah, is that okay? And I live in a coastal town. So flip flops are kind of the norm. I mean, I like to wear flip flops. I like to wear my Lululemon and call it a day. Like that's my idea. I'm not a dress to the nines person. And I was able to be just as successful as those that are wanting to wear those blazers. And I never believe in shaming anybody for what they want to wear, how they want to dress, or what they want their brand to look like, because somebody is going to resonate with them with whatever it is they choose to showcase with their brand.
Exactly.
But just know that those things ultimately, they are not deal breakers for most people. Most people don't care if you're driving a Mercedes or if you're driving a Honda. Most people don't care if your hair is bright, fiery red or if it's a nice shade of brown. Like they don't care. We overthink these things as agents because we think they're in our control. So we feel like we need to be putting focus on them. Yeah. And that's not always necessarily the case. Whereas you are the brand, make yourself the brand and make sure, back to your point, that you are 100% true to you and who you are.
I feel like just thinking about these two topics, about the way you dress and also like the cars and the bags you hold, I feel like that has to be buying the luxury is to prove that you're successful so that people trust you. Like if you're making money, then you must be good at what you're doing. But then also the way you dress, I imagine that's because I've read in a lot of online forums and I've actually read articles on this topic about women are successful in real estate because of the way they look. People truly believe that a man will want to buy a home from you just because you're pretty. But you know what? If that pretty face cannot get you the home you want, the deals you want, or the area that you want, if they're not good at their job, no one's going to return to them, no matter how beautiful they are, no matter how they dress, no matter what car they drive. They could have the most expensive home in the entire state and no one's going to come back to them. So I feel like that has to have a root in something about what's been said about female realtors, because I don't hear a lot of men asking the same question. I don't hear a lot of men asking, can I wear my cargo shorts or should I wear a full-on suit? Why is it that only women are asking?
You know what? I think that's such an interesting question because there's literally a conversation that I've been monitoring in the group that started happening yesterday. This girl is beautiful. She's a beautiful girl. And she apparently, I think, came from a modeling background or something, or maybe at one time she modeled something. She went to go get her headshots and she's wearing a top, and I don't remember her name, sorry, and I don't want to call her out, but she's wearing a top and it's kind of like a tank top. One side is shoulderless. The other side has like the sleeve, and you can see it in the photo. So, but anyway, she's beautiful. She's absolutely stunning. She just is. And she kind of like made fun of herself. She was super lighthearted about it. She was such an amazing sport, but she went in and she was like, hey, she's like, so I went to go get my headshots done and I wanted them to be like professional. Mm-hmm. She's like, but I'm not really good at like maneuvering my face. I only have like this certain like model face. I don't know how else she described it, this model face. And she's like, so they kind of came out too sexy. She's she's like, I know I can't use them, but I thought they were funny and I wanted to share them with you guys. Most people were amazing. They were like, haha, girl, you're beautiful, but we all agree, like, this maybe isn't the best headshot to use. But then there were like some other agents that were like, definitely don't use this. This is dangerous. Or what kind of attention are you attracting? And I think it's such an interesting conversation because, again, she knew that it wasn't for her, but I have seen agents who that is their brand. And that is for them. And I don't know if they're getting leads or not. I really don't know. And I can only imagine that the leads that they are getting are from men, but again, like, you do you, boo. But the comments, there were multiple comments about the wife isn't going to like that.
Oh, no.
And I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like in other people's relationships, but I do know that I'm the researcher and I'm the one that does the hiring and I do that. And I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily, I don't really look at the person's
the physical.
But it's interesting that that's a conversation and that people feel that way, that, oh, I have to button myself up because I don't want the wife to feel some sort of way.
What? If the wife cares, you could be wearing a turtleneck your entire life and she's still not going to hire you.
Oh my God. Well, and I've even heard where I've even seen comments on women who are real estate agents who specifically wear wedding rings, even though they are not married, because first of all, they want the mans to know that they are taken, but also they don't want the women to feel threatened. And again, this is not a conversation that men have as real estate agents. They're not like, oh, I need to wear my ring so that my, so it's just really interesting how, I don't know, just again, that personal brand like shows through and everybody has different ideas of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Do not judge. I am such an open book and I believe that whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever you want to put out there, you do. But again, the conversation is very prevalent. That, like I said, I'm actually monitoring that conversation because again, we strive to keep it super kind, super positive. We just want to make sure the conversation doesn't turn like judgmental. So, and if it does, we immediately like remove that and we're like, we don't play that game. But, anyway, just
I think in real estate, because I never really knew much about real estate agents or anything really specifically about the industry before I started working with the Pocket Network and then doing this podcast. So I'm realizing more and more, the more I learn about people and the more that I meet people, that this is one of the least judgmental careers that there should be. I'm not saying it is the least judgmental, but there's people from incredible backgrounds. We have people who were doctors, who were aerospace engineers. We have people who were models, whatever it was that they did in the past. These people, their personality, I think, has developed with the career that they had. So whether they're more buttoned up or whether they like to wear, I don't know, more revealing clothing, I don't think that will necessarily change with real estate because real estate doesn't really have a dress code. So why should they change the way they've been dressing their entire life just to sell a home, And I'm sure some people, they have changed their brand and they do change the way they dress because they feel like that helps them sell the home. And you know what? If that helps you and you feel good about yourself, then who the heck are we to judge? If anything helps, why should we judge? Whatever it may be. If that's just not my brand, then I won't do it. No one's forcing me to follow in your footsteps, So I do think that real estate is just so broad and everyone will be able to find their group and what works for them.
100%. I 100% agree with you. I think it's really important to remember that confidence can be whatever it looks like to you. And as long as you are confident in what you're wearing, what you're dressing, what you're driving, if you're confident in your skills and your ability to serve your clients to the best of your knowledge, then that in itself is going to make you an amazing, stellar agent. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter and nothing else matters at that point. So I think that, work on to the main point here, the brand, yourself, make it as true to yourself as possible. And here's the other thing that I learned, just like with the RealtHer Society and what I've built with my community of women, who you are and who you who you represent yourself as is the person that you're going to attract. So make sure that however you're representing yourself out there is bringing in the type of people that you want to bring in. If you are someone that maybe is kind of out there like looking a little scummy and you're attracting scummy people, that balance, you gotta get to think like, okay, wait a minute. Like, am I putting out there what I want to attract? And that's ultimately, that's the law of attraction, isn't it? Like, isn't that what they say? Put out there what you want to attract. So if you want to attract people like you, people that you love to work with that are warm and excited and happy, and they're going to be your happiest clients, then definitely make sure that you are being your true authentic self.
Yes. And I think you touched on something really important. So you can definitely work on the way you dress, the way you look. But first of all, you're wasting a ton of money that you haven't made yet because you're just in the career, but also you're wasting a lot of time. Imagine if you spent all that money and time towards research and educating yourself to be a better agent. I think a lot of people will be willing to look past your dress that they wouldn't wear or your hair color that they wouldn't have chosen for themselves if they know for sure that you're well equipped and well versed in the area, in the homes, and you can get them exactly what they want. So I think it's really important to focus on that. I have like this one, I call it a horror story. For other people, it's just shocking. I know someone who wasn't selling too many homes or as many as they would like. So they went and they got plastic surgery because they thought that would help. I was like, I've never heard of anyone get plastic surgery for a job unless it's like a celebrity or someone like that. And I don't know if it worked, but I was in complete shock. I can't imagine ever getting surgery just for a job.
Yeah. Well, and my first question was like, well, did it work? But the second thing is that there's just so much pressure. You see these shows and like, look, I'm totally guilty of binge watching them, but you see Selling Sunset. These women are beautiful. They have all this plastic surgery. They've got the luxury cars, the luxury handbags, the multi-million-dollar homes, these high-profile clients, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, like, is that what I have to look like? Is that what I have to do? Do I have to be, doing all the plastic surgery and doing all the things and wearing way too expensive clothes? And honestly, like you said, spending money that I don't have. And no, you absolutely don't. It's all for TV. I'm not saying that those agents aren't out there. They probably are, and I'm sure they're living their best life. But please, please, please do not look at that and think that that is what you have to look like or have to be as a real estate agent. If it's what you want to be, that's cool. But if it's not, then come on, please, do not do that to yourself. Oh, but again, back to the confidence also.
Yeah. You could also look at it a completely different point of view. Maybe these people got the luxury bags and the luxury cars and the plastic surgery because they were successful. That's probably not what they looked like in the beginning. That's probably not the shopping habits they had in the beginning. So you cannot compare yourself to anyone. And whether that's physically or whatever they buy monetarily, but also just career-wise. I cannot expect to get my real estate license today and compare my career to anyone on these shows because they have so much more experience than I do. That's why I think it's so important to fully live by the fact that your only competition should be yourself. Because you should try to be better than you were yesterday and last year. And that's an attainable goal. Now, if I'm trying to be at 100 and I just started yesterday, I'm going to be really disappointed when I fail hard.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And I have to say, I say this all the time and I know people are like, okay, yeah, whatever. But I made my first 6-figure year when I vowed, like my New Year's resolution was to stay in my lane and focus on myself. And anytime I started to compare myself to another agent or start to feel some sort of way about something, I would pull myself in. I'd give myself a little pep talk. I would look back at my New Year's resolution and I would toe this straight line of I'm focusing on my business. I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. That's all I cared about. And that was my first 6-figure year. So if you're a newer agent and you are trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to that 6-figure mark? What does that look like? It first and foremost looks like worrying about your own business and not the outside influences. So, that's hard. It's so much easier said than done because I think we all tend to compare our businesses and ourselves to other people in the industry.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I wanted to focus on something more specific with leadership in real estate. So I know that the National Association of Realtors, they said that women are still underrepresented in real estate, even though I'm pretty sure there are more real estate women in real estate than men currently, if you look at the percentages. So what do you think this is from? And what do you think we could do to help change this?
Yeah, I think that that is last I checked, it was like 65% of real estate agents were women, but we are severely underrepresented when it comes to leadership. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we try so hard to connect with that male dominated side that we forget that there's this whole other side that's untapped, which is that feminine side. And I'm not necessarily talking about pinks and girlies. Yeah. I'm more talking just about that, you think about who's making decisions now. Moms are making decisions, women are making decisions. Women are also the highest group of single home buyers. So if a woman there's more chance that a woman is going to buy a home if she's single than a man buying a home if he's single. So it just goes to show that women are 100% stepping up and taking ownership. Real estate tends to be a dinosaur industry, and we're not moving as forward as fast as some of the other industries and society as we are becoming more women focused. So I think that it's really, really important to take ownership of the fact that you are a woman and you absolutely have a space at that table, and you force yourself to have a space at that table, and you let them know, look, it may not look the way that you want it to look, Mr. So-and-so, but I'm still here. I'm still going to blaze that trail. And this is how I'm going to do it. And of course, I always like to back up my words with action. And so that has always been really important to me. All right, I can and I will, and watch me. So I think that just as a woman, understanding that you 100% have a space at that table, and it does not have to look like Mr. So-and-so next to you. It could if that aligns with you. I'm all about alignment here. But if that aligns with you 100%, but if it doesn't, then do it your way, because that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so important to know our worth, because a lot of times the person in front of you either won't recognize it or won't show you the respect that you deserve. So if you know your worth, then first of all, you'll be able to have those difficult conversations and ask for what you deserve. Most importantly, sometimes we have to ask for it. People are not going to just recognize that you've been doing great work and that you deserve that title. If there's your male counterpart who has a little more self-confidence and he asks for it, they'll give it to him. And it might not even be a personal thing. It's just because he was there, he wanted it, and he fit the qualifications. So I think that's also really important, that women, a lot of times they wait for whether it's the 6-month or the 1-year reviews that they have, and they wait to be recognized, and they work really hard and they don't speak up. But that needs to change. If you're not recognizing what I'm doing, I'm going to tell you exactly what I've done. Put it in an email if you can't say it to the person's face. And realistically, with real estate agents, you're not in the office daily. So it would make a lot of sense to put it in an email and say, these are the things that I would like to discuss, so that your boss or whoever it may be that you're meeting with is ready and also looks into your stats, your numbers, what you've been doing, and has a chance to think about it before you go in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one of the things that I've noticed, and of course we're making a lot of generalizations here, it depends on the person. But for me, what I find typically is that when you're talking to a man or in a man's space, they're all about sales. They're all about the selling. And again, it tends to get a little aggressive in the selling. It's all about those hard hitting tactics of, we got to be on the phone. You got to be doing this. You got to be doing that. You got to make sure you're showing up in your Corvette. You got to do that, all that stuff, right? When you talk to women, it tends to be more service based. I want to serve my clients. I want to build relationships. We're more service and relationship based, where I think men think in terms of sales. And I don't know that one is better than the other, but I think what happens is we kind of let the sales side overshadow the fact that we are in a service industry. And yes, there is sales involved in it, but really relationship and nurturing those relationships is one of the best things that you can do for your business. And as women, we tend to be better at that than men. Yeah. We tend to be better at nurturing and doing those type of things because it's in our DNA. So again, a lot of generalizations here, but just thinking that, when I'm thinking about men in the leadership space, I do tend to think of them as like the aggressive. You think about they have the headsets on and they're like, and they're like, oh, no, all of that fun stuff. We don't tend to be like that so much. So I think that, just recognizing the fact that you are still in a service industry, even though you are selling, that shouldn't be your primary goal. It should be to serve and to nurture and to build those relationships with your clients.
Yeah. And also realistically, if you're tuning into your emotional side and also, understanding what your client needs from you emotionally, that's more effective in any type of marketing. Forget about just real estate. Any type of marketing, if you're able to make the story emotional and connect with the person, you will be able to sell more. So it goes back to the numbers anyway. You would be more successful that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm going to be making a generalization. Typically, women are the ones that do more at home. They're the ones that might stay at home to take care of the kids, and then their husband gets to work on their career until the kids are grown up or whatever the reason may be. So how do you recommend people manage their time? Because with real estate, you don't have specific hours. So how can you still be on top of your duties that you've committed to at home and then still be able to pursue that career?
Right, 100%. So I am an organization freak. Like I love making sure that my time is accounted for and my plans, like I already have my 2023 plans all planned out. Like I am someone that likes to plan for sure. Yeah. And this is crazy to me because I was someone that was like, I spend 2 hours every day doing my email. And I was like, if people are like, what are you doing? And I was like, I have so many emails and going through all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, I was checking my social media. I was doing, I was like, taking a phone call. I was doing all of these other things. So I do this time blocking. I give myself, as a real estate agent, I recommend you give yourself morning and an afternoon time for email. If you want to add something in between there, you can. And then I give myself a specific amount of time for phone calls, a specific amount of time for my clients as far as meeting up with them and showing homes and all of that. Now, I know that can be a little tricky depending on the market that you're in. You want to be available for your clients, but it's okay to say, I only take my clients out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between this time and this time. If that does not work for you, we need to, we'll have to look at something outside of that scope. It's okay to guard your time like that. If you're interested in diving further into this, there is a book. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I'm a huge, huge fan of this method. Once I started doing this, I was able to get way more done during the day than I thought was possible. I was also able to really start to build systems. And I am all about, and I talk about this a lot in the RealtHer Society and some of the programs that we have, I am all about automating the things that you can automate in your business, because not everything, believe it or not, has to actually be you physically doing it all the time. You can set up systems and have those systems running automatically for you in the background. We talk a lot about that. Again, some of my programs in RealtHer Society, you can check that out. But as far as managing things, being super strict with your time, saying these are the times I'm available for work, these are the times that I'm available for my family, and giving yourself those hard lines is going to be really the key to making sure that you're able to have that work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Do you think that this is one of the reasons why we don't see more women in leadership, because they can't manage their time the same way a man can by just saying, it's okay, my wife or my partner will take care of it?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. But it could also be, I recently saw, was it a TikTok or I can't remember. Okay. Have you seen the TikTok where it's like, or the thing going around where it's talking about how now we say like, I saw this article when the article was actually the TikTok. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how I feel right now. I'm like, I saw this article. No, it was a TikTok.
Yeah.
But basically, they were talking about how, we as women, we tend to internalize that whole idea of, I have to take care of the kids. I have to take care of the house. I have to do all these things. Plus I have to work and my husband just gets to go to work. But here's the thing, like, could you talk to your partner and say, like, hey, this is your kid too. Hey, this is your house too. And I have these big things, these big dreams, these big goals that I want to do. So you're going to have to also take on some of the lion's share of the work here in the home. Could you do that? I know I could with my husband. He's super supportive. And it's like, could you do that? Or do you not even try? And maybe some women do, maybe some women don't. But it's like, until you're exhausting all options, like, I don't know. I feel like for me, and I could just be super lucky, but I feel like if I was like, you know what? I don't like cooking. You actually kind of don't mind cooking. I'll do the laundry. You do the cooking. And boom, we've split up some of our things. It frees up more time for me. It makes them more responsible at home. But as women, we tend to mother our spouses as well as our kids. So we tend to take on more responsibility than I think we actually really have to, because we don't ask. We don't have a conversation about it.
I agree. I think we don't prioritize our dreams and we give up too quickly on our own dreams.
Yeah.
And it's all in your mind that you're sacrificing for, whether it's your partner or your kids. But in reality, your kids would probably benefit more by seeing you fully doing exactly what you want and being happy and taking that as an example.
Gosh. Yeah. And it's like, this is a big thing with just, I don't know, my general business. You started your real estate business, I assume, because you wanted to be your own boss, you wanted financial freedom, and you wanted time freedom. So if you aren't giving yourself those things, if you aren't finding a way to make your business work for you instead of you working for it, why'd you even start your own career? Why'd you even become your own boss? So I always recommend when people are talking about that, like, take a step back and figure out, why is it that I started this? What did I think I was going to get out of it? It was probably money, and it was probably the flexibility. But now you are strapped for money and you don't have the flexibility. So what happens, So, I think that a lot of times we just need to sit back as, and it doesn't even necessarily pertain to women specifically. It could be to men too. But you need to take a step back, and you need to look like, if you're exhausted at the end of the day, or if you're on the edge of the big B word, which is burnout, and that to me is a dirty word. But if you're on the edge of burnout right now in your business, chances are you don't have systems in place. You are doing too much, and you're not prioritizing things that you need to be prioritizing. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And there are systems that you can put in place to make things easier. There's conversations that you can have with your partner or your spouse to make things easier. There are things that you can do with your kids to make it easier for you. And you just need to find what those are. And everybody's different as far as what their time limitations are. And what their threshold is. So just take a look at, and remember the biggest thing here, remember why it is you started: time freedom and financial freedom. And if you aren't getting those, take a step back, figure out why.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why mentorship is so important in real estate. It's literally like the career version of a therapist. And that's the person that's going to be able to stand from the outside of your relationship, whether it's you and your husband, how you guys have your schedule set up. And they're going to be able to stand out on the outside of your career and exactly what you're doing, and analyze everything and give you suggestions with only one goal in mind: your success. And then you take that, whether you can apply it or you're willing to apply it to your business, and decide exactly what you want to do. And most importantly, I think something else is also important. I've personally met a few women who had decided to be stay-at-home moms. It was their choice. And then they got kind of bored. So they said, well, I'll do something on the side. Real estate looks easy and it pays a lot. So they decided to do it, not because they love real estate, but just because it seemed like the easy thing to do. And they thought they were going to make easy money. Sell one house a year and I have my entire year's salary. That was their mentality. And then with these people, what ends up happening is you just waste a bunch of your time, you waste a bunch of your talent, and you waste a bunch of money trying to market yourself, trying to send out these flyers, but then you have nothing to back up. If a client calls you, you don't have a listing in mind, you don't know your area, or you're stretched too thin. You're sending these flyers to a million different areas and you have barely been out of your city. So I think one of the important things also is to know when to quit. Because if this isn't right for you, it doesn't matter how many more years and how much more money you pour into it. All you're going to do is waste your time and resources.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, come on, like you hear it all the time. You see it all the time. People are like, real estate is kind of an expensive thing to get into. You know, people are like, oh yeah. And they kind of take it with a grain of salt. And then they actually get their license and they start their brokerage and they're like, real estate's really expensive. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? And it's like, yeah, like real estate is a very, very expensive. But I also like to say it's no more expensive than starting any other business. It's just like any other business. And I know this from experience because I've had multiple other businesses. Real estate is just like starting any other business. You have costs that you have to pay into it. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that shift from being an entrepreneur, like if they're coming from a job where they're getting a paycheck, the input does not always equal the output. So it's not like you put in X amount of hours and you're going to get X amount of paycheck. That's not how this works, unfortunately. So there are some times where you're going to make buku bucks putting in 3 hours a week. There are other times you're going to be putting in 60 hours a week and you're probably not going to make anything. That's just the nature of the beast. But I absolutely agree that understanding your why and the reason behind it, if it's only for money and you're like, oh, again, selling one house a year. No, that one house a year may pay for the expenses that you actually have to have. But like, I agree.
Yeah. To get that one successful lead, it's going to take a lot more marketing than you're probably prepared for, and not just forget about the fees that you have to pay as an agent.
Yeah. I think, people forget or they don't know. Here's the reality of it. People do not know what is really involved in a real estate career. And I'll be 100% transparent with you. I had zero clue. I thought I knew a lot, and I did know a lot. I knew way more than the average person because I had my own business in the past. I am very accountable for my actions. I am able to grow businesses. That is not an issue for me. So I thought I had this in the bag. This was like a no-brainer. And when I walked in on that first day and they handed me a packet and they were like, all right, now we got to memorize scripts because you have to get leads, I was like, what are you talking about? What in the world are you asking?
This is not what I signed up for.
Not what I signed up for. And people don't understand that. They think that, it's going to be so easy. Somebody's going to want to look for a home. They're going to walk into my market center and they're going to be like, I need an agent. And I'm going to be like, it's me. And it absolutely does not work that way. So just understanding exactly what is involved and being prepared for that. And I certainly never want to discourage or scare anyone off of the career, but just understanding that, this isn't necessarily a great part-time gig, an easy part-time gig. You do have to work at it.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I feel like they need to make a reality show now that shows the real reality, the dark side of real estate, the sucky days, the days you don't get paid, the days you can barely make the payments to your brokerage that you need to pay or your realtor fees. And then once you watch this 45-minute episode, now you decide, do you love it enough to be able to live like that?
Yeah. Well, and sad story. Like when my husband and I were looking for our first house, this was years ago, we were looking for our first house and we were actually coming in from out of state. So we didn't really know the agent that we were working with. And I did not know much about real estate at the time, obviously, because it was my first house. It wasn't like I was in the real estate world. So we go in and, we were very interested on a very specific house. And so we go and we take a look at the house and she was like a little bit odd and we're like, all right, you're a little quirky. It's cool, whatever. But we decided to make an offer on this house. So we go to a coffee shop. We sit down. She's getting all the paperwork together. My husband and I, we're all nervous, all of that kind of stuff. And she turns around and has us sign everything. And we're like, oh my gosh, we just signed our life away for our new house. You know how it is. So she puts it all away and she goes, now I have to ask you something. My husband and I looked at each other. We're like, okay. And she's like, can I have gas money? And I was like, what? She's like, well, I have to drive all the way back to my office to turn in this paperwork and fax over the offer. She's like, and I don't have gas in my car. And like, of course we gave it to her, but we walked away feeling so uncomfortable and so unsure of what the heck just happened.
Yeah.
That it really goes to show you that there are some agents that are just in those really, really bad financial situations. It was probably, for all we know, ended up, we didn't get the house. Clearly, we did not continue using her as an agent. We decided actually not to move where we were looking. We moved somewhere else. So, but regardless, like we kind of felt like, oh my gosh, like, is our offer in good hands? Like, what's going on?
This is the opposite of buying luxury to make your client feel good about hiring you.
Yeah, exactly. But, just thinking about like, at the time, we truly did have a conversation. Like, do we feel comfortable? Do we feel like she's going to be able to represent us? Like, what's going on? That was so weird to us. But now, obviously, being on this other side of it, and I remember being an agent and I had $16 in my bank account. I remember it and being like, oh my gosh, hopefully nobody wants to go see, things houses this weekend because I have $16, but I mean, I think that everybody's been in some sort of financial strain like that, but only other agents can really understand what that feels like, So, just understanding that getting started can be tough. It can be a long road and it can be expensive.
Yeah, no, I completely see how difficult it could be. The more I'm learning about the industry, it's not all glam like we all think it is. So thank you so much, Tara, for your time today. And I think we got some great content. And I hope that especially all the women watching, you would join the RealtHer Society and also join Tara's Facebook group. You could reach out to Tara on all social media too. We'll link her information down below and let both of us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know what you liked about it or what you wish we had covered. And we'll have Tara back on and we'll go more in depth. Maybe we can have people from your Facebook group on and we could discuss exactly how they're using the group, how they're leveraging it to be more successful. Use every tool that's available to you. And Facebook is free. Well, the groups are free, not the ads. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. And remember, it's up to you to apply all of this information now because change begins at home.